friends, how are you on this rainy day? I was thinking of you all after I watched Bennett Taylor's magic trick, and I thought that about all the magic we had learned about when we read Sylvester and the Magic Pebble a few weeks ago, and how much you all loved that story. So I thought I would read it to you today. Before we get started with the book, I printed out a picture of someone doing a magic trick, just like Bennett did yesterday. And here is magic that starts with the letter M. Magic. In this picture, the boy is making a rabbit appear out of his magical hat, and he uses a magical wand that has powers. Today in our book, it is a story about magical pebbles. Here's some pebbles I have right here. Very ordinary little tiny stones. And in our book, Sylvester goes looking for pebbles because he has a collection, and he finds one very special pebble that has magic powers. It can make things appear and disappear. Let's read about the magic pebble now. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble by William Steig. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and father on Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shape and color. See them there on the table? He's collecting them, looking at his collection. On a rainy Saturday during vacation, just like today, he found quite an extraordinary special pebble. It was flaming red and shiny and perfectly round like a marble. As he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver. That means he shook, probably because he was so excited, but also because he felt cold rain on his back. As he held the pebble, he said, "I wish it would stop raining." And to his great surprise, it stopped. It didn't stop gradually, it ceased. The drops vanished on the way down, and the clouds disappeared. Everything was dry, and the sun was shining as if it had never rained at all. Look, boys and girls, he's holding the pebble when he says, "I wish it would stop raining." I wonder if the pebble has magical powers. In all his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish granted so quickly. It struck him that the magic must be the work of that amazing red pebble. And indeed it was. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and said, "I wish it would rain again." But nothing happened because he wasn't holding the pebble. And then he picked the pebble up and held it, and again said, "I wish it would rain." And just like that, the skies turned black, and lightning came, and thunder clapped, and rain came shooting down. "What a lucky day this is," thought Sylvester. "From now on, I can have anything I want, and my father and mother can have anything they want, and my relatives and friends can have anything they want just by asking with this pebble." He wished for the sunshine to come back to the sky. He wished for a wart on his hoof to go away, and they did. They disappeared. He could hardly wait to get home to tell his mother and father the good news about this magical pebble. He wondered if they would even believe him at first. But as he was coming over Strawberry Hill, thinking of the many, many things he could wish for, he saw a mean, hungry-looking lion looking right at him across the meadow. Oh, Sylvester was so frightened. If he hadn't been so frightened, he would have remembered that he was holding the pebble and could have said, I wish the lion would disappear. Or he could have said, I wish that I could be home right now. Or he could have said, I wish the lion would turn into a butterfly. Those all would have been great wishes. He could have wished so many things, but he was so scared and he panicked and he said, I wish I were a rock. Oh my goodness, friends. He turned himself into a rock. And look where the pebble is, over next to him. The lion came bounding over and sniffed the rock 100 times, walked around it and went away, confused, perplexed, puzzled, even bewildered. The lion said to himself, I saw that donkey clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy. And he walked off. And there was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill, with the magic pebble lying right beside him on the ground. But he was not able to pick it up. How come he couldn't pick it up? He has no hands now that he's a rock. There was nothing he could do. He couldn't get that magic pebble to work unless he was holding it. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and worried. He felt helpless and he felt hopeless. Would he ever see his parents again? The only way that he could turn back into a donkey is if somebody would come along and put that pebble on top of the rock and say, I wish this rock were a donkey. Well, the chances of that happening were about 1 in a million. Sylvester began to fear that he would be a rock forever. He fell asleep. What else could he do? Night came, and so many stars came out in the sky. Sorry. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Sylvester had never, ever come home later than dinner. Where could he be? They stayed up all night wondering what had happened, hoping that their Sylvester would be home. But by morning, he still wasn't there. Mrs. Duncan and Mr. Duncan cried and cried, and then they set out to see what had happened to him. Will we ever see our Sylvester again? At dawn, they set about asking the neighbors if anyone had seen their son Sylvester. They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before yesterday. Friends, he's been gone 2 days. They went to the police. The police could not find their child. The police sent all the dogs in Oatsdale sniffing for Sylvester. They sniffed behind every rock and under every blade of grass and behind every tree, in every nook and gully of the neighborhood. They were looking for the smell of a donkey. At one point, they sniffed the rock on Strawberry Hill that was Sylvester. But Sylvester, it didn't smell like a donkey. It smelled like a rock. After a month of searching, boy, friends, that's 30 days. He's been gone a very long time. Look at how sad his mommy is. Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They concluded that something dreadful must have happened to their little boy. They tried their best to be happy and go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. They cried all day. Life had no meaning anymore. Night followed day, and day followed night over and over again. And Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often. When he was awake, he was hopeless and unhappy. He felt he would be a rock forever. He tried to get used to it, and he fell into an endless sleep. The days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell and the grass bent on the ground. Oh, he was gone for spring and summer. Now it's fall. That is a long time, everybody. Then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food they had stored up. But one day, a wolf came and sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. Friends, there's snow on the ground. I hope the magic pebble is under that snow. I hope it's still there. Then the snows melted, the earth warmed up, and the spring sun shone, and things began to bud. Look at all the flowers and the grasses, everything is blooming. Leaves were on the trees again, flowers showed their young faces. Look, the pebble is still there. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. Let's cheer up, he said. Let's try to live again and be happy, even though our Sylvester, our angel, is no longer with us. They went to Strawberry Hill. Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock that's Sylvester. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester up from his deep winter sleep. Oh, how he wanted to shout, "Mother, Father, it's me, Sylvester. I'm right here inside this rock." But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was stone dumb. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about while Mrs. Duncan sat a picnic on the rock. She had alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad, timothy compote. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the pebble. What a fantastic pebble! Oh, our Sylvester would have loved this pebble for his collection. He put the pebble on the rock. They sat down. Sylvester was now awake as a donkey who as a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. "You know, Father," she said suddenly, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is alive and not far away." Sylvester said from inside the rock, I am. He wanted to shout, but he couldn't because he was a rock. If only he knew the magic pebble was resting on him, he could have made a wish. "Oh, how I wish he were here with us on this lovely day in May," said Mrs. Duncan. Mr. Duncan looked sadly and said, Don't you wish that too, Father?" He said, "Of course I wish it. But remember, someone had to be holding the pebble, my friends, in order to make the wish." From inside the rock, Sylvester said, "Oh, how I wish I were myself again." And just like that, because the rock was on him, my friends, in an instant, he was himself again. Sylvester was no longer a rock. You can imagine the scene that followed, the embraces, the kisses, the questions and the answers, the loving looks and the fond exclamations. Wonderful. I love that page. When they had eventually calmed down a bit and gone home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Someday they might want to use it, but for now, what more could they wish for? They had all that they ever wanted. Their sweet Sylvester was home. The end. Okay. Thanks for reading Sylvester and the Magic Pebble with me today, my friends. And maybe on a sunny day, you can go out looking for some pebbles. And who knows, you may just find one that's magic. I hope you do. Have a great night. Bye, everybody.